My mother-in-law Patricia had rented the Meridian Club for every single one of her grandchildren's birthdays for the past 6 years. The venue cost $4,200 for a 3-hour party, not including catering or entertainment. My nephew's 8th birthday, there had a magician who charged $800. My niece's 10th featured a petting zoo that ran $1,500. When my daughter Emma's 8th birthday approached in March, Patricia told me over coffee at her kitchen table, "We can't waste that money on your child." I planned my own party at a community center. Cost me $150. The day before Patricia's granddaughter Madison's party at the Meridian Club, the venue's event coordinator called her. I know because Patricia called me immediately after, her voice tight and strange. They said they have a booking for Emma's party next month. At the Meridian Club. Under your name. She went completely silent when I confirmed it was true. Let me tell you how we got here. I'd been married to Patricia's son David for 11 years. We'd separated 14 months earlier, in January 2024, after I discovered he'd been having an affair with a colleague from his consulting firm. The divorce was finalized in June 2024. I kept my married name, Mitchell, because changing it back felt like admitting defeat, and also because all my professional credentials were under that name by then. Patricia blamed me for the divorce. She told me at a family barbecue in July 2024, in front of 17 people, if you'd been a better wife, David wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. I'd been holding a platter of corn on the cob. I set it down carefully on the picnic table and walked to my car with Emma without saying a word. Patricia had always seen me as beneath her family. When David and I started dating in 2011, I was working as an administrative assistant at a marketing firm making $34,000 a year. Patricia made sure everyone knew her son was dating the secretary. At our engagement party in 2013, she'd introduced me to her friends as David's girlfriend who works in an office. The emphasis on works in an office made it sound like I was filing papers in a basement somewhere. I'd smiled and shaken hands and pretended not to notice. By the time we married in 2014, I'd been promoted to marketing coordinator, earning $47,000. Patricia asked me at the rehearsal dinner, "Are you sure you can afford to take time off for a honeymoon? With your job?" We went to Costa Rica for 8 days. I'd saved for 14 months. Emma was born in February 2016. I took 12 weeks of maternity leave, then went back to work as a senior marketing associate making $58,000. Patricia offered to watch Emma twice, then stopped, saying she was too busy with her other grandchildren. Those other grandchildren were David's brother's kids, Madison, who was 6 at the time, and Christopher, who was 3. Patricia watched them 3 days a week. She lived 4 miles from us. 12 miles from David's brother. I hired a nanny. Her name was Gloria. She cost $2,400 a month. Patricia said at Thanksgiving 2016, "Must be nice to afford that on your salary." I'd been stirring gravy. My hand tightened on the whisk, but I kept stirring. "We manage," I said. What Patricia didn't know was that I'd started a side business in 2015, 6 months before Emma was born. I'd been running social media accounts for 3 small local businesses, charging $500 per month per client. I worked on it during lunch breaks, after Emma went to sleep, on weekends when David took her to the park. By the time Patricia made that comment about the nanny, I was bringing in $1,500 a month from 5 clients. Nobody in David's family knew. I kept that money in a separate account at a different bank. In 2017, I left my marketing job and registered an LLC, Mitchell Media Solutions. Filed the paperwork on April 3, 2017. Paid the $275 registration fee from my business account. I told David I was going to try freelancing for a year. He was skeptical but agreed we could afford to try it with his $95,000 consulting salary covering our main expenses. I told his family I was doing some freelance work. Patricia said, "That's what people call unemployment now." I had 8 clients by the end of 2017. Revenue was $52,000 for 9 months of operation. I kept detailed records. QuickBooks. Excel spreadsheets. Every invoice, every payment, every expense categorized and filed. I hired an accountant in January 2018, Sarah Chen from Hoffman and Associates. She cost $1,800 for the year, but she saved me $4,200 in taxes. By 2019, I had 19 clients and had hired 2 part-time contractors. Revenue hit $147,000. I was working from our spare bedroom, taking calls while Emma watched Sesame Street in the living room with Gloria. At family dinner in August 2019, Patricia asked me, "When are you going to get a real job?" I was cutting chicken for Emma. I didn't look up. "This works for us," I said. "David must be so stressed, supporting the whole family," Patricia said. She was passing the potatoes to David's brother. David said, "Mom, she's doing fine." "Fine isn't going to pay for Emma's college," Patricia said. I had $73,000 in Emma's 529 plan. I'd opened it the month she was born. Patricia didn't know that either. The pattern continued for years. Christopher's 5th birthday party in 2018, the Meridian Club, $4,200 plus a bounce house company that charged $950. Madison's 8th in 2019, the Meridian Club, $4,200 plus the face painting artist who cost $600. Emma's 4th birthday in 2020, Patricia sent a card with $25 inside. I took Emma to Chuck E. Cheese. Spent $87 on tokens and pizza. By 2020, Mitchell Media Solutions had 32 clients. I'd moved into a commercial office space in March, 1,200 square feet in a building on Morrison Street, $2,100 per month. I hired 3 full-time employees. Revenue was $324,000. I paid myself a salary of $95,000 and reinvested the rest into the business. I bought a new Honda CR-V in June 2020, paid $31,500 cash. Patricia saw it at a family cookout and said, "David must have gotten a raise." "Something like that," I said. I didn't know David was meeting with a divorce attorney that same month. I found out about the affair in January 2024. Her name was Melissa. She was a senior analyst at his firm. They'd been seeing each other for 8 months. He moved out on January 18, 2024. Filed for divorce on February 2nd. Patricia called me on February 3rd. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You've destroyed this family." I was in my office. My assistant Jen was at her desk 15 feet away. I walked into my private office and closed the door. "Patricia, I didn't have an affair. You were never there for him. Always working on your little projects." My little projects had generated $487,000 in revenue in 2023. I'd hired 2 more employees. I had 41 clients, including 3 Fortune 500 companies. But I didn't say any of that. "I have to go," I said, and hung up. The divorce was brutal. David wanted spousal support. His lawyer argued that he'd supported me while I built my business. My lawyer, Catherine Morrison from Morrison & Steele, $425 per hour, presented my business records. David's lawyer went pale during the deposition when Catherine showed the tax returns. Mitchell Media Solutions grossed $487,000 in 2023. My personal income was $165,000. David made $112,000. We settled in May 2024. I kept the business, obviously. We split the house proceeds. I got primary custody of Emma. David got every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. No spousal support for either of us. Final decree signed June 14, 2024. Patricia didn't speak to me for 3 months. Then she called in September about coordinating Halloween with Emma. The conversation was cold. Functional. She mentioned that Madison's 10th birthday was coming up in November. "We're doing the Meridian Club again, of course. Emma's invited." "That's kind of you," I said. "David will bring her." At Madison's party on November 9, 2024, I dropped Emma off with David in the parking lot. I could see the venue through the glass doors, white tablecloths, balloon arches, a dessert table that must have cost $800. Patricia was inside directing staff members. She saw me through the window and turned away. Christopher's 9th birthday was in January 2025. The Meridian Club. $4,200 venue fee. I saw the invoice. David left it on the passenger seat when I picked up Emma one Wednesday. A pottery painting station had cost an additional $1,200. Emma's 8th birthday was February 18, 2025. I asked Patricia in early January if she was planning anything. We were on the phone. Emma was at David's. "I think you should handle Emma's birthday this year," Patricia said. "All right. I just wanted to coordinate so we're not. We can't waste that money on your child." The line was silent for 3 seconds. I heard Patricia breathing. "What did you say?" I asked. "The Meridian Club is expensive. Madison and Christopher's parents contribute. You and David are divorced now. It doesn't make sense to spend $4,200 on Emma when you're not really part of the family anymore." I was in my office. It was 4:47 p.m. on January 8th. Through my window, I could see the parking lot, my BMW X5 in its reserve spot. I'd bought it in October 2024, paid $52,000. In my desk drawer was a contract I'd signed 2 days earlier with a national retail chain, $180,000 annual retainer starting March 1st. "I understand," I said. "I'll plan something for Emma. I think that's best. You can do something appropriate for your budget." I made a list that night. Emma wanted a princess party. I found a community center in Riverside, $150 for 3 hours. I ordered decorations from Amazon, $87. I hired a college student to dress up as Elsa for $100. Cake from Costco, $23. Pizza, $64 for 4 large pies. Total cost, $424. I also made a second list that night. I opened my laptop, went to the Meridian Club's website, filled out an event inquiry form. 2 days later, January 10th, the event coordinator called me. Her name was Victoria. "We received your inquiry about a birthday party for your daughter. We have availability on March 15th or March 22nd. "March 22nd works perfectly," I said. "Wonderful. The venue rental is $4,200 for 3 hours. We also offer catering packages starting at—" "I'd like the platinum package," I said. "That's the one with the seafood station and the carved prime rib, correct?" There was a pause. "Yes, that's $68 per person." "How many guests are you expecting?" 40 children, probably 30 adults. "Let's plan for 75 people total." Victoria's voice changed slightly. More attentive. "That's $5,100 for catering. Plus the venue fee. We're at $9,300 before entertainment or decorations. I'd like to add the premium balloon arch installation. And I need a princess performer, specifically someone who can do Elsa and Anna. And face painting. And a bubble station. Let me pull up those options." I heard typing. "The premium balloon arch is $650. Princess performers are $400 for 2 hours. Face painting is $300. Bubble station is $275. Perfect. What does that bring the total to?" $10,925 before tax and service fees. With those added, you're looking at approximately $13,780. That works. I'll need to put down a deposit today. 50% deposit. That would be $6,890. We accept all major credit cards or bank transfer. I'll do a bank transfer. Can you email me the contract and wire instructions? The contract arrived at 2:14 p.m. I reviewed it. Signed it digitally. Initiated the wire transfer from Mitchell Media Solutions business account. The transaction completed at 3:47 p.m. I didn't tell David. I didn't tell Emma. I sent the invitations myself, designed them on Canva, ordered them from Minted for $127. 40 invitations. Emma's classmates, her friends from soccer, a few kids from our neighborhood. I mailed them on January 28th. Emma's small party at the community center was February 18th. 23 kids came. Emma wore a blue dress from Target, $34.99. The college student Elsa was late, but the kids didn't care. The pizza was fine. The Costco cake was fine. Emma had a good time. Patricia wasn't invited. David brought Emma home at 6:30 p.m. She had fun. I asked. Yeah, lots of kids. Good cake. I'm glad. 3 weeks passed. I worked. Jen and I finalized the national retail contract. I hired another employee, Marcus, a graphic designer, starting salary $58,000. Mitchell Media Solutions now had 8 full-time staff members. I signed a lease for larger office space, 2,400 square feet, $4,800 per month, moving in April. On March 21st, the day before Emma's party at the Meridian Club, I got a call at 11:32 a.m. Patricia, we need to talk, she said. About what? The Meridian Club called me this morning. I was reviewing a client presentation. I minimized the window. Okay. They asked me for a reference. They said you'd booked a party there. For Emma. Tomorrow. That's correct. What are you talking about? You can't afford the Meridian Club. I booked it in January. The party's tomorrow at 2 p.m. With what money? My money, Patricia. You're lying. David said you were barely getting by. You did that cheap party at the community center. I did. And I'm also doing this one. The Meridian Club costs over $4,000 just for the venue. I'm aware. I paid $13,780 total. The line went silent. I counted. For seconds. That's not possible, Patricia said. The deposit was $6,890. I wired it on January 10th. The final payment was due last week. I paid it in full. You're making this up. Victoria from their events team can confirm. She's been very helpful. More silence. I could hear Patricia breathing. Why would you do this? Her voice was different now. Tighter. Emma deserves a nice party. You can't just, you should have told me. We could have. You told me you couldn't waste that money on my child. So I handled it myself. I didn't mean. I need to go, Patricia. I have a meeting. Emma's party is tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Meridian Club. You're welcome to attend if you'd like. I hung up before she could respond. The party was perfect. 42 kids came. The balloon arch was stunning, white, gold, and ice blue, 12 feet tall, flanking the entrance to our private event space. The princess performers arrived at 1:45 p.m. dressed as Elsa and Anna. They stayed in character for 2.5 hours. The face painting artist set up in the corner sheeted a frozen snowflake on every child who wanted one. The bubble station ran continuously. The catering was excessive. The children ate pizza and chicken fingers. The adults ate carved prime rib and jumbo shrimp. The cake was from the Meridian Club's preferred bakery, a 3-tier frozen castle that cost $380. Patricia arrived at 2:17 p.m. with David's brother Mark and his wife Jennifer. Madison and Christopher were with them. Patricia was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit. Her face was carefully neutral. She walked to where I was standing near the dessert table. This is quite something, she said. Thank you for coming. How exactly did you pay for this? I own a business, Patricia. Mitchell Media Solutions. I've been running it since 2017. David said you did some freelance social media. It started that way. Now I have 41 corporate clients, 8 full-time employees, and we grossed $612,000 last year. Her mouth opened slightly. She closed it. That's not possible. You would have mentioned. I tried to tell you at Thanksgiving 2019. You asked when I was getting a real job. That was different. You were working from home. I still am, technically. Though I'm moving into a 2,400 square foot office in April. The lease is $4,800 per month. Jennifer had moved closer. She was listening. Mark was watching from 6 feet away. David never said anything about this, Patricia said. David found out during the divorce proceedings. His lawyer was surprised too. You hid it from him? I kept detailed records that I shared with my accountant and reported accurately to the IRS. David never asked about my business. He assumed I was making enough to buy groceries. You should have told the family. Why? So you could tell me it wasn't a real job. Victoria appeared at my elbow. Excuse me, Ms. Mitchell? We're ready to bring out the cake in 5 minutes. Should we gather the children? Yes, thank you, Victoria. Victoria smiled and walked toward the performer area. Patricia watched her go. You're on a first-name basis with the event coordinator? She's handled 2 of my corporate events here. I booked the Meridian Club for my company holiday party in December. That was $18,400 for 70 people. Victoria gave me a preferred client discount for Emma's party. The color was starting to drain from Patricia's face. You spent $18,000 on a work party? It's a tax-deductible business expense. And my employees deserved it. We had a good year. Mark joined us. Did I hear you say you own a company? Mitchell Media Solutions. We do social media management and digital marketing strategy for corporate clients. How many employees? 8 full-time, 3 contractors. Revenue? $612,000 last year. We're on track for $780,000 this year. Mark looked at Patricia, then back at me. And you've been doing this since when? Since 2015 as a side business. Full-time since 2017. Patricia put her hand on the back of a chair. I don't understand why you never said anything. I did. Multiple times. You asked me when I was getting a real job. You said my little projects weren't paying for Emma's college. You told David he must be stressed supporting the whole family. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You assumed. Jennifer spoke for the first time. What kind of clients do you work with? 3 Fortune 500 companies, including one you've heard of, Target. I manage their regional social media campaigns for the Midwest. That's a $180,000 annual retainer. I also work with about 30 smaller businesses, law firms, medical practices, retail chains. Target? Jennifer repeated. The contract started March 1st. I pitched them in November. Victoria returned. MS. Mitchell, we're ready. Excuse me, I said to Patricia and walked toward where Emma was standing with her friends. The cake presentation was elaborate. The lights dimmed. The staff wheeled out the 3-tier castle while playing Let It Go over the sound system. Emma's face lit up in a way I hadn't seen at her community center party. Not because this party was better, both parties had the same kids, the same games, the same love, but because she could see, even at 8 years old, that someone had made an effort. That she was worth the 3-tier cake and the balloon arch and the princess performers who knew all the movie songs. We sang Happy Birthday. Emma blew out the candles. The photographer I'd hired, $400 for 2 hours, captured it all. Patricia left at 3:15 p.m. without saying goodbye. I saw her talking to Mark and Jennifer near the door. Mark glanced back at me once. They left. David stayed until 4:30 p.m., when the party officially ended. He helped load gifts into my BMW. There were 43 gifts. Emma sat in the back seat, exhausted and happy, still wearing her plastic crown. You didn't have to do all this, David said. Yes, I did. My mom called me yesterday. She was upset. I imagine so. She said she didn't know about your business. She never asked. I didn't really know either. Not the scope of it. You knew during the divorce. Yeah, but I don't know what I thought. That you'd had a few good years. It's been a few good years. 8 of them, actually. He closed the trunk. Emma had a great time. Good. He walked to his car. I drove Emma home. She fell asleep before we hit the highway. 3 days later, on March 25th, Patricia called at 7:48 p.m. Emma was doing homework. I was answering emails. I owe you an apology, Patricia said. All right. I made assumptions about your financial situation. That was wrong. Yes, it was. I didn't realize you'd built something so substantial. I know. I'd like to make it up to you. Maybe we could have lunch sometime. Talk about your business. I'm actually very impressed. Patricia, I appreciate the apology. But I'm not interested in having lunch. I'm trying to. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to rewrite the last 8 years now that you know I have money. The answer is no. That's not fair. You told me you couldn't waste money on my child. Those were your words. Not, I can't afford it. Not, it's too expensive right now. You said you couldn't waste it on Emma. I was upset about the divorce. You've been treating me like I was beneath you since 2011. The divorce was just an excuse. I never said you were beneath us. You didn't have to say it. You introduced me as the girlfriend who works in an office. You asked if I could afford my own honeymoon. You sent my daughter a $25 check for her 4th birthday while spending $5,000 on your other grandchildren. The line was quiet. I think it's best if we keep our interactions focused on Emma, I said. You're welcome to see her during David's custody time. But you and I don't need to have a relationship beyond that. You're being vindictive. I'm being clear. Goodbye, Patricia. I hung up. For 6 weeks, everything was stable. David picked up Emma on his scheduled days. Patricia saw her sometimes at David's apartment. I didn't ask for details. Emma didn't volunteer them. Mitchell Media Solutions landed another major contract in April, a pharmaceutical company, $220,000 annually. I hired 2 more employees. 10 full-time staff now. Moved into the new office space on April 15th. Signed a partnership agreement with a web development firm in Chicago. Revenue projections for 2025 hit $890,000. I bought a house in May. For bedrooms, 2,800 square feet, in the same neighborhood where David's brother Mark lived. Paid $470,000. Put down 40%, $188,000 cash. Mortgage was $1,680 per month. Moved in on May 24th. Mark's wife Jennifer saw the moving truck. She texted me that evening, "Welcome to the neighborhood. We should have you over for dinner." We never did have that dinner. Emma thrived. Made on a roll. Scored 3 goals in her soccer league. Had friends over every other weekend. Stopped asking why Grandma Patricia didn't visit anymore. Then last week, on June 9th, Victoria from the Meridian Club called me at 10:23 a.m. Ms. Mitchell, I have a slightly awkward question. Patricia Mitchell called us yesterday asking about your account with us. What kind of questions? Whether you'd actually paid for Emma's party. Whether the payments had cleared. Whether we'd had any issues with your credit cards. I closed my laptop. What did you tell her? I told her I couldn't discuss another client's account information. But she was quite insistent. She said there might be some kind of fraud involved. There's no fraud. I didn't think so. You've been a model client. But I wanted to give you a heads up that she's asking questions. Thank you, Victoria. I hung up and opened my safe. Inside were copies of every contract, every payment confirmation, every business record from the past 8 years. Tax returns. Bank statements. The wire transfer receipt from January 10th showing $6,890 paid to the Meridian Club. I also pulled out something else. A recording device. Small. Digital. Voice activated. I'd been carrying it since March 21st, the day Patricia called me about Emma's party. I'd been recording every phone conversation with her since then, including the one on March 25th where she called Emma, your child, and I corrected her by noting she'd said, waste money on your child. I'd been waiting to see if Patricia would try something. Looked like she finally had. So, what do you think? Did Patricia go too far, or was I justified in how I handled this? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more family drama updates.